So Donald Trump is losing billions yet again, and this time it's in education. Check this out. New international student enrollment fell sharply this year, and you're looking at a 17% decline. Double-digit decline, 17% decline in new international enrollees this year. I want to go through the details of this stuff, and let's jump right in. This is what it says. International student enrollment rates at American colleges and universities fell sharply this year, driven by visa application issues as prospective students are caught up in the Trump administration immigration crackdown. And I would argue there are a couple reasons that you're seeing a declines. Again, 17% decline. One is people just don't want to come. It's not safe. I'll just be frank with you guys. It's not safe. And two, Trump makes the application system much more convoluted and difficult and slow. There are some situations to where, say, you get accepted at university, you apply for the visa, but then you don't get it approved in time, or maybe it doesn't get approved at all, right? So you actually did get accepted, but then they just, for whatever reason, your visa is not approved, or they may require higher fees than before, or require more interviews at difficult to get to locations. Any number of reasons. The application system is harder for people to navigate. And again, it's also not safe as you're worried about getting arrested from being an international person in USA. So, my opinion, I would go somewhere else. That's just my opinion. After the Trump stuff goes away, which it will eventually, probably international students will recover. Let's hope so at least. But this is costing the USA billions, as we'll get into. Let me read some more details of this stuff. It'll say here. New international student enrollment in the U.S. institutions declined 17% in the fall of 2025. So this is the most recent data. And this is the largest non-pandemic decline in the last 11 years, right? So this is a significant decline. It also says here, I guess it's been a trend. This figure from a preliminary report covering a portion of the institutions comes on the heels of a 7% drop in new national enrollees in the last academic year, right? 2024, 2025. And then the data is from 825 U.S. Institutions, and it says more than half of them, so more than half of the 825, so roughly about 400, have a decrease in international student enrollment. It says right here as of fall 2025. So you're basically chasing people away, and the best way to think about it, and just in terms, because I know sometimes MAGA people watch this, but just let's say you're running, be it a restaurant or you're running a hotel or in a situation running a university, do you want to chase your customers away? is that good business, right? And it should be obvious. No, it's not good business. And something else that I want to address, because sometimes MAGA people say, well, these people, they're taking up American spots and we don't want any of these people, right? Well, this is something that you need to take in consideration. Oftentimes, when international students come in, talking about undergrads and sometimes grads, it depends on the department, but undergrads in particular, they pay full tuition, okay? So when they pay full tuition, what does that do for American students? In fact, it funds scholarships, it funds grants, it keeps the university going. And so if you want to come in as an American and go at a discount, international students basically fund your education. This is just the reality of how these, the money works and this kind of stuff. And this is something that for me, I'm an American. So I want, and not only do you get the best and the brightest, say, from around the world, but you get money. And it takes money to run things. I'll explain it. But unfortunately, you do have to explain it because, the Trump, he'll just make up nonsense about, I'm bringing in trillions and trillions and trillions, which is just not true. In fact, you're chasing away billions and billions, right? And this is also what it says. This is a quote here. The quote, "The U.S. is no longer the central place that students aspire to come to." That's coming from someone who's the CEO of the Association of International Education. So, this is what they do. It's not where USA is not where people want to go anymore. Attributed to decline in difficulties in obtaining U.S. visa, saying the issues have made the U.S., quote, less competitive on the global stage. According to the report, 96% of the higher education institutions cited visa application concerns as an obstacle for enrollment. So this is all Trump caused because they're basically chasing people away by making, again, the system more difficult, more expensive, more slow. And then you're seeing these things down. And it's hard to measure the, amount of students that just don't want to come. That part's hard to measure because, can we do surveys internationally all around the world? But I have seen, anecdotal evidence, and I've seen some data that suggests that people don't want to come. I think there was one recently that was interesting. It was something out of Canada, and they're just saying like, yeah, I'm not going to USA, I'll stay in Canada. And that's just one example, because like sometimes Americans don't think of, say, Canadian money as being international, but it is. It totally is, right? Or you may have Canadians just boycotting buying American products, any number of things. That's just Canada as one example, but there's several countries out there that this is being affected by. It also says here, visa issues preceded President Donald Trump, has attributed some of the 7% dip in the 2024 academic year to high visa denial rates from places like India and sub-Saharan Africa. Interesting. So I guess hard to get visas if you're from those areas. However, the Trump administration paused new student visa interviews in May, creating long application backlogs. And we've talked about this stuff. It's hard to keep track of all the stuff that Trump is up to. But here's an example of like, just imagine that you're in another country, another place. You accept a university, you got all your paperwork in place, and then they say, okay, you got to go do an interview, but then they defund that sort of thing, right? So then there's no one even conducting the interviews, and there's like really long wait times, and so then you can't go. And if you're an international student, if you're going to get arrested in USA and it's hard to go through the system, just go somewhere else. I mean, that's just what it ends up being. And this affects a lot of cities and places all around the country, because international students will come in, they'll go shopping, they'll go to restaurants, they'll go to various tourist spots, they rent out apartments, like any number of things. They're bringing money into the community, which affects a lot of jobs in USA. And this actually describes the money loss. And I'll just say this, I think it's hard to measure exactly how much, but yes, it's a lot of money. So for example, it says this enrollment decline carries deep economic consequences with the NAFSA report. So what does it say? Also published Monday, estimating $1.1 billion loss to the U.S. economy due to fewer international students. Okay, so that's one number. According to NAFSA, international students contributed nearly $43 billion to the U.S. economy and supported more than 355,000 jobs in the 2024-25 academic year. So it's in those kind of numbers. Do we know the exact number? I think it's hard to measure because it also doesn't. It's also hard to measure. Like, think about if a student comes and they build relationships with local students, right? Americans, you're building future partner relationships for years to come. And this is something that it's sad for me, guys. You don't know. I was a professor for about 10 years, and plus I was a student also as well. And my greatest memories of being in USA is meeting people from all around the world. I think that's the strength of USA is the what was, now it's unfortunately Trump is chasing this stuff away, basically weakening USA, but the strength is attracting all kinds of people from all sorts of places. And every person from different backgrounds brings different types of, strengths and skills to the table. It's really upsetting to me, to be perfectly frank. And it's frustrating to see the USA basically just isolate themselves and, defund education, destroy education. And it's just, that's why you see the USA the way that it is. And it shows up everywhere. It shows up in the news. It shows up on YouTube. It's obvious to me. And it's sad because Americans can't see it. You can't see how things keep getting more and more dumbed down. It's sad to see. And I'll read through some more and you'll see. International students not only contribute through tuition fees, but also lift local economies through buying services and products. So services like, they go get haircuts, any number of things, right? And so then all those businesses suffer, right? They rent cars, they even buy cars, all sorts of stuff. Services and products, so they're not doing anymore, right? Renting apartments, purchasing health insurance, that's another one. That's a good point also. Bringing international visitors, right? Their parents come and visit, their family comes to visit, right? NAFSA estimates that every 3 international students, 1 U.S. job is created or supported. So you're killing us. There's no else to put it. And also, it affects tourism industry as well, stuff that Trump's doing. And what's interesting about this article is the picture that they use is actually from the University of Pennsylvania, which is my university. Donald Trump actually went here as well. Ivanka was there when I was there, and many of the Trump family actually go to school here. It's a heavily international university. There's a lot of international students here. And just to give you some example, this is actually from Penn. They were writing here. It says currently Penn is home to 9,143 international students and scholars. That's coming from the, I guess, class of 2029, includes data from over 100 countries, all 50 states. And I know, I just know how it is. Not every university has this many international, community there. And it's hard to explain to people who haven't been in this type of environment. But I'll just put it in the most simplest terms. Just, think about, say you have a cousin or, long relative that lives far away, and they always have something interesting to tell you about their city, right? That's actually a family member. So you're already kind of familiar, so not that different. But when you start to meet people who are not even from your same country, and this is like over 100 countries, may speak different language, have different religions, look a little bit different, eat different types of food, listen to different types of music, any number of things, watch different types of movies and TV shows, like your exposure to new things like really broadens your perspective. And when you go to school in a place to where like this includes both students and scholars, you meet so many kinds of people, and also you'll meet people that bring skills that Americans may not have or want to do. So for example, at many universities in the USA, when you want to learn something like math or engineering, it's hard to get Americans to do this stuff. It's hard. I'll be frank with you guys, it's hard. And it's a combination of the USD funds, right? So they don't fund education enough. And so, there's less incentive for people to go into these kind of things. And it's a long conversation, but if you've been to university, you'll know that many of your TAs and professors, stuff like that, in many fields are not American, right? For any number of reasons. Some people say, "Oh, Chris, you're just so dumb. Americans are the smartest and the best people in the whole world." And good luck with that. Good luck with that thinking. Good luck. And it's frustrating too, because this is a new polling data that just came out. Learning history is really important. And part of what the Trump people want to do is basically destroy history and write their own narrative. So this is actually an interesting thing going on right now. We're trying to figure out, okay, how do we make sense of the Charlie Kirk stuff? And this is related to university because remember, Charlie Kirk was a college dropout that then went to university campuses and would debate college kids, and basically it was just fighting. It was just a bunch of fighting. It was for entertainment, and then tell people how bad education was. And he's a college dropout. It was so ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. And now we're debating on how do we read his death, right? So this is actually a poll that came out. It says, majority across parties say extreme rhetoric contributed to Charlie Kirk's death. And I think it's like 6 out of 10 Americans are saying that. That's what it said here. I'll just read it real quick. It says more than 6 in 10 registered voters say they think extreme political rhetoric was an important contribution to killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. And if you watch any of his shows, Charlie Kirk stuff, it really was just people fighting, and I'm gonna own the libs, and I'm telling everyone that Christianity is the best religion in the whole world. That's this whole show, this whole spiel. And it was never about learning. It's not about a real conversation. It's just about fighting. And let me show you guys something, because this is in the news today, and it just reminded me of like the strengths of being an environment like the USA, which you would like to have international. So this is just a headline I just pulled up from today. It says Alyssa Liu, Michaela Schifrin, and Jordan Stoltz ignite Winter Olympic season and Weekend of Stars. And I bring this up because when you think about sports, not necessarily education, wouldn't you like to go to an environment, say in the Winter Olympics, where it doesn't matter what someone's background is or where they come from? You see the most talented people on the ice, essentially what I'm saying here. And you can see from the names, there's different types of people who do the Winter Olympics. They could come from any number of spots, and you want to see the best and the brightest. And if you treat everything like the Olympics, essentially, be it education, be it business, be it anything, and you attract the best and brightest no matter where they come from, you'll be really surprised on the people that you find and the people that come. And regarding the whole history thing, like how we were writing history, let me show you. This was something that's going on at University of Florida right now. It says here, it's an opinion piece, but I'll just show you what's going on. It says, Charlie Kirk statue is at odds with new College of Florida's academic legacy. So In Florida, they want to put up this statue of Charlie Kirk. They're trying to treat him like a hero, and they're rewriting history to say, oh yeah, he was welcoming and he was pro university and all about discussion. Like, see, so they're building up this basically fake statue. That's basically what it ends up being. And it's interesting because if you actually tell people who Charlie Kirk was in the Trump environment, right, they may pull that kind of discussion. So this was actually on South Park, and I remember when they ran this episode, and I guess it's pulled now, so you may not be able to see it anymore in USA. So you could argue this particular episode of South Park is banned. Maybe you can find it online or whatever, but at the moment it says right here, South Park episode parroting Charlie Kirk pulled from Comedy Central following his killing, which I understand why you would pull it, but if you actually watch the episode, it tells the truth about Charlie Kirk, which is essentially, it's all about fighting, owning the libs, and then you edit things in a way that basically makes people look dumb. And again, it's about fighting. It's not about learning or education whatsoever. And I have to emphasize over and over again that Charlie Kirk was against education and he was a college dropout. So like, why does it matter? Because like they try to, they're like, why would you put a college dropout dude statue who's against education on a college campus? That's why it's so like ridiculous. And anyone who's, who is a serious scholar at University of Florida is ticked off right now. That's something going on right there. I also want to bring this up as well. This is something that, why does education matter? Because you develop your critical thinking skills and you can have real conversations about this stuff. So here's an example. This is in the news today. Thanksgiving could be more expensive this year. Here's how to navigate higher prices. And the headline then is wholesale prices for turkey have jumped 40% from a year ago. Okay. And so as a real conversation, there's two ways you could do it. If you do the Charlie Kirk method, you just come in and say, okay, guys, turkeys are really expensive. And if they're not expensive, fight me. Right. So, okay. Like, why are we fighting about this? Like, in a real conversation, it's like, okay, there are 50 states in the country. There are various cities. Tell me what the prices of turkeys are. I'll tell you where they are in my city. I want to hear from your city. And let's explore the reasons of why they could be more or less depending on the city. And that's what a conversation is. I don't need to be, quote, right. I don't have to fight you on these kind of things. As education, you actually just want to seek the truth. But I'm telling you guys, anyone who watches Charlie Kirk, honestly, you'll know it's just about the fighting and the who can yell louder kind of stuff. And if you look at the White House, social media today, they're basically attacking education and they're proud of it. They're saying, oh, you got to read, our cabinet member, McMahon, her op-ed piece, and she was the CEO of a professional wrestling league. You can't make this stuff up. So their education person, the Trump people, used to run professional wrestling in USA. Yes, it really is that stupid. It says McMahon, the shutdown proved just how little the Department of Education will be missed. So meaning they're saying, see, we don't need no education department, get rid of it. And then the way that they sell it to the people is we're going to give responsibility of education to the states, and they're going to pull the federal government out of it. Here's the reality, though. Some states in USA, they're hurting for cash. It's just a reality. Some states may, I don't know, make more money is the right word to say it, but their balance sheets and then their, industries are stronger and they just are in better economic shape. Some states aren't in so good shape. And so then if you have a federal government, you can actually contribute to states that need the help. That's essentially what it boils down to. And in particular, let me give you some just really simple examples. It's really expensive. It just costs more money. If you have special needs students, it costs more money to provide education for them. I think it's a good thing to provide education for special needs students. And this could be defined any number of ways. There's certain situations out there to where, we need to come together to help those who need the help the most. I don't know what else to say. And it's sad because, for the Trumpers who like to yell and scream at the top of their lungs that they're all Christian, their actions don't look like that to me. And it's pretty obvious. And this should not be a left or right issue. Like people with some students with special needs, this could be in any number of families, right? And if you've ever been around a student who has special needs, who needs, any number of reasons, needs, a specially trained teacher to assist them, you'll understand like it is a major, major cost if the government doesn't provide funding and services for that. And you're kind of on your own. And from the Republican standpoint, who cares? Who cares about education? Who cares about special needs students? And I'm just giving just one example. If you want to talk about just, in my opinion, which would be, should be basic thing, is making sure students have food. There's any number of reasons why states again are defunding education or fiscally underwater, and sort of why we need to pitch in and all help out each other, because at the end of the day, all of us benefit by funding education. But I understand how it is, and if you want to go the dark route, and I'll just tell you the truth on this stuff, from the Trumpers and the billionaire class, their point of view is, what, this is what we need. We just want low educated, cheap workers to work in our factories and be uneducated and get you to hate each other, right? That's all we want. Just hate each other, fight in our Hunger Games or whatever, and we'll just keep collecting the cash, and when in doubt, just blame someone else. And that's essentially what it ends up being. And if people can't read, they don't understand history, then they just think this is normal. And if you only watch one channel, then you got real tunnel vision. You don't know there's other ways of doing things, and that's the more darker way of thinking of this. But I just want to tell you the truth of like the society that they're going into, and that just only benefits the people at the very, very top. And it's sad to see it. So I'm sorry to tell you the truth on that kind of stuff, but it is what it is. And it's worse as when you tune into right-wing channels or whatever. They basically just, how should I say it? They I guess you could argue they simp for the top 1% nonstop, and it's like bizarre, the most bizarre crap to see. And then they pretend they care about regular people. It's just obvious. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you on the next video.